all the way in the back.
Close the harmony with the Middle East Times. What are the real chances of success without the presence of Syria?
I think you could have a successful, or at least a non-damaging meeting without Syria there. I think obviously it complicates the situation, the way it is perceived in the region. But I don't think that's, I think that's, as I say, I think that has to do with other dynamics, the regional dynamics, which obviously weigh in on what happens between Israelis and Palestinians. But I think the conference itself could end up with a process and some substantive agreement that would be independent of Syrian participation. From my point of view, I think, to take on looking at it from a different angle, I think one of the things that's happened over the last several years, certainly compared to when we were dealing with this at Camp David, is the far greater interrelationship between regional crises. Not just Israel, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran. These are far, far more interrelated than they ever were when the United States dealt with this in the past. Which means that it's very hard to make progress on one if you don't make progress on the others. And it means that because things have become more porous, because the capacity of one spoiler to spoil something else has become much greater, I think if Syria is not involved in the process in one way or another, and I think this conference, if it were up to me, I would also launch the beginning of Israeli-Syria negotiations, although those could take place at a much slower pace. But if you don't do that, I think you're undermining chances of success on the Israeli-Palestinian stage, because Syria's capacity directly or indirectly, and whether it's through physical means or simply through ideological campaign, to discredit what's happening between Israelis and Palestinians.
I would ask the question, what are the chances of success with Syria present? I mean, that's the issue with Syria is not only the Golan. If it's only the Golan, it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy. But there are many other things that come into play. And I'm not sure I would want to hold the Palestinian-Israeli track hostage to that. I mean, there's an opportunity on the Palestinian-Israeli track for a number of reasons. I would move ahead with that and not get the Syrian dimension too involved in this. Syria's ability to be spoilers, obviously it's there. However, I do believe that for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, Hamas will find it more difficult to act as a proxy for Syria to destroy this kind of process, because Hamas will pay a huge political price to be too transparent an action by Hamas to do that.
Can I add something on that? Because number one, I don't think it's just Hamas. I mean, there are other organizations, they could be rogue organizations, and it won't take much. As to the point which I hear many people say, which is it would be too transparent and Palestinians would discount it as an attempt to torpedo November. That's probably right, but how long would that last? As soon as there's an Israeli reaction and you have a body count of 50, 100, 200 Palestinian casualties, most Palestinians, I suspect, would forget what caused this and would focus on how the Israelis responded. And that's happened over and over again. And so even Abbas will be able, after a certain time, to remind the Palestinians this was caused by Hamas or whoever, Islamic Jihad. He will have to focus on what is happening to Palestinians, how many casualties have occurred, how many Palestinians are suffering, and it's going to make it that much more difficult to be embracing the Israelis and to be talking about peace at the same time as Al Jazeera and other television stations are filled with images of Palestinian victims.
And I don't think you can discount Syrian mischief in the north
as well. And one thing about the timing of this meeting, which is, I don't know if it's coincidental or if it's just miscalculation done on purpose, it coincides with the Lebanese presidential election, and now it coincides as well with new action or potential action in the Security Council against Iran. So it's, it's a perfect storm of unfortunate events.
That's a good point.